Hello, everybody. Welcome to QI Talk Time. The numbers are clicking up as we go along there. We've 28 people online, which is great. My name's Roisin Breen, and I'm up in Dublin, and Dr. Stevens, and we've got Declan O'Keefe with us, joining us over the waves from Cork. Great we have the technology working, Declan, and thanks for being so patient with me while we did that.
No problem.
Yeah. So today's webinar is about enabling continuous hospital self-assessment utilising the Enhanced QA and I tool. So Declan, if you want to skip on there, we have Declan O'Keefe with us today, and Declan's a Senior Executive Officer with the Quality Patient Safety Office Acute Operations, and leads the recent technical enhancement project on the Acute Quality Assessment and Improvement tool. So this links in with the National Standards for Safer, Better Healthcare, which place the patient at the heart of healthcare. They're aimed at protecting patients and improving services, and will form the basis of future licensing for all healthcare facilities in Ireland. So I suppose it's very pertinent that we have this webinar today, that people are informed about this. So the newly enhanced QA and I tool enables the process of continuous self-assessment against the standards, so that hospitals can now begin to monitor better and report on their levels of compliance. So without further ado, just a little bit of housekeeping on the next slide there, Declan.
Sorry.
Yeah, so there is a phone number if you want to dial in to listen over the phone. The phone number and event number is there on the screen. I'll also put it in the chat box function there for you. Also at the top right-hand corner of the screen, there is a chat function. So Declan is going to have some time at the end, and I will manage the chat box throughout the webinar. So if anyone has any questions or comments during the webinar for Declan, we'll have time at the end to manage those. And if we don't, Declan can then follow up by email if there's any particular queries. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Declan. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Roisin, and welcome everybody to this webinar on enabling continuous hospital self-assessment utilising the Enhanced QA and I tool. As Roisin mentioned, this is a very pertinent and timely webinar, and coincides with the release of the Enhanced QA and I tool in October. Now, the objectives of the webinar today are threefold, effectively: to increase awareness and understanding of how the enhanced tool can assist hospitals in self-assessing against national standards for safer, better healthcare, and also to, I beg your pardon now, just lost my screen. 1 second, Roisin, can you come back to me? Here we go. Hello?
Hello, yeah, Declan, you're still there, that's fine.
I just lost my presentation on the screen.
Oh, has it? If you just go down into the toolbar along the bottom there, the presentation should be there, no, in the circle.
No, I'm not seeing it.
Hover up to the top of the, sorry about this to people online, hover up to the top of the screen.
Share?
Share, yeah. Are you getting it again, Declan, there?
No. I hit the return to my event window. I hit return to event window.
Do you know what, Declan? What we could do is, if you wanted, I can share the slides from my screen if you want, and we can just talk through them from mine. Would that work better?
If you like.
Yeah. Actually, do you know what? 1 second there, yeah.
I have a hard copy of the presentation in front of me. I can talk to it, but I can't flick the screen.
Hello, Declan.
Hello, yes.
Yeah, I'm just trying to sort this out here now, so just bear with me one moment there. Sorry, I don't know what happened there with the platform, so just 1 second, I'm just pulling up your slide set here. Sorry to people online, we seem to be having some technical difficulties with the platform today, so we should be with you in just a minute. Okay, I'm just bringing up your slides now, Declan, all right? Okay, can you see those okay, Declan?
I can. I'll maximize them, can I? You maximize.
And I'll just go, there we go.
Okay, so have I got control? No.
No, I'll have to do that for you. That's okay.
Okay. Sorry about this. I'm trying to regain my position. Okay, so as everybody will be aware, the National Standards for Safer Better Healthcare were launched in 2012 by HICWA, and the standards are immensely important, as HICWA said themselves, for patients, for placing them at the heart of the care process, but ultimately at the end of that quotation, in terms of service, helping, ensuring that services are positioned to be licensed for all healthcare facilities within Ireland when the time comes. Moving on then, Roisin, please, to the next slide. This slide outlines the 8 teams that the standards have been designed with, teams 1 to team 8. As people will probably be aware already, the teams are broken down into a number of standards, 46 I think it is from the small print I'm looking at here, and 45, and then 53 essential elements. And it's those essential elements that we'll be returning to when we look at the QA&I tool itself shortly. Going forward on the slides, Roisin, the next slide will provide identifies the way that the 8 teams are divided, if you like, between the top half and the bottom half. The top half of this wheel identifies the dimensions of quality in terms of the 4 teams, Team 1, Team 2, Team 3, and Team 4, person-centered care and support, effective care and support, safe care and support, and better health and well-being. And those 4 teams are then effectively supported, if you like, by the 4 teams in the lower half of the figure. And they relate to areas of capacity and capability within the organisation. Moving forward then to the next slide, once the standards were launched in 2012, the former quality and patient safety directors organised a acute care collaborative to, if you like, to put in place resources to assist hospitals to assess against the standards and to give them a platform in its own right to put together a standardised approach to self-assessing. Now, in doing that, they devised as well the web-enabled QA&I tool, which is a tool that we will be looking at again shortly. So that original tool was devised in 2013 and released in 2013 by the Acute Care Collaborative, following their work, led by Dr. Mary Brown. So as part of that process, the self-assessment resources that are available since then include the HICWA standards itself, the guidance documents by HICWA, but also the workbooks that the Acute Care Collaborative devised as part of their process in 2013. So those resources continue to be available and are available on the QA&I tool under the Resources tab, and we'll see that later. So effectively, in terms of the process of self-assessment, the vision for self-assessment against the standards are on your screen there. So the self-assessment against the standards should become an integral, proactive and continuous element of our hospital's quality and safety framework, and can be seen as an opportunity to demonstrate what hospitals can do and are doing well, Through self-assessment, the national standards can become real and relevant for frontline staff. So in that sense, the vision of self-assessment is very, very appropriate for our hospitals. Moving forward to the next slide, as part of this presentation, I felt it would be very appropriate and opportune to convey a model, if you like, of self-assessment that has been undertaken by Faircare University Healthcare Group through the summer months in particular, but over in the last 12 months, in December of last year. Faircare, as you can see from the slide, established a national standards working group in December 17 to develop and promote a collaborative approach towards self-assessing against the standards by developing a culture of peer-shared learning and experience in relation to the self-assessment process itself, to evidence of compliance and quality improvement projects, and their use of the QA&I tool. The Faircare National Standards Working Group agreed on its terms of reference and membership and its scheduled bi-monthly meetings. Data will be populated by the quality and safety lead and data inputters. It's appropriate at this point as well to mention that as part of the project we undertook in the last 12 months with the QA&I tool, that Faircare partnered with us in the project and provided the trial run, if you like, was undertaken for a period of 2 months during the summer with Faircare, and to whom we're very, very thankful for that. Continuing with the self-assessment slides, Faircare decided to adopt a phased approach, being cognizant of competing priorities, the workload and the resources available. So focusing on just 2 of the 8 teams, basically taking a bite-sized approach to self-assessing and focusing on what would be considered as the 2 major planks, if you like, of the standards, Team 1 and Team 5. Moving on to the next slide, it can be seen that the sales pilot of the tool incorporated a training and education campaign within Faircare with an enhanced understanding and utilization of the tool itself and their data collection, admission and submission processing. So in doing so, they focus on 3 sites in particular within Faircare: Galway University Hospital, Clyde University Hospital and Roscommon University Hospital. A significant contribution came from the pilot sites, in particular from the data inputters, with whom we liaised, and they provided an enormous amount of feedback which contributed to the development of the enhancements to the tool. And again, we're thankful for that. In relation to the self-assessment process in Faircare, Tess Folks, the Quality and Safety Manager, and Faircare would be only too happy to advise anybody any further in relation to this into self-assessing and how they went about it in Faircare. So that model, if you like, of self-assessment can be taken forward by the rest of the hospital groups, if you like, and take advice from Tess on how she went about it there, and her colleagues through John McElhenney and the CEO, led by the CEO of Faircare Healthcare Group. Moving forward to the next slides, I've now explained to you and given you an overview of the national standards and how they relate to the model of self-assessment undertaken by Faircare. In the following sections of the webinar, I will review the project on the enhanced QA&I tool that was, which was launched on the 18th of October at the National Patient Safety Conference in Dublin Castle, and I'll highlight some of the key enhancements that we have made. Before finally, at the end of the webinar, I will provide a more detailed demonstration of some of the key functionalities of the QA&I tool. On the next slide, it highlights the timeline over the last 6 years it is now since the standards were first introduced by HICRA and adopted by the HSE. As I mentioned earlier, the Acute Care Collaborative worked on the standards to make them, I suppose, and interpreted the standards and created the QA&I tool to allow hospitals to facilitate them in self-assessing against the standards. So, as you can see there, in 2017 and forwards from then, we've been looking at ways to improve the tool, bearing in mind the feedback that we've received from focus groups that were held in 2016 and a survey that was undertaken of all users in 2017. So as a result of all that work, the National Director for Field Operations, Liam Woods, sanctioned a project to review the tool and to find ways of enhancing it, to improve it, to make it more easy for people to use it, and make it to add greater value to the tool. So in doing that, we took all the feedback that we got from the survey in particular, and used that, if you like, as a remit for the project group. So moving forward to the next slide, then, Roisin. I'm just mentioning there that we made a project group. And the project group comprised of myself as leading it, but was chaired initially by Deirdre McNamara, who's since moved on to another role, and Clara Clifford was the chair then. Then we were also assisted by Tess, who I mentioned already in relation to CERTA, and by Helen Ryan in Beaumont Hospital, and by Claire Doherty in OOCIO, who's extremely familiar with the QA9 tool from its inception in 2013. Probably appropriate now at the moment to acknowledge the support and cooperation received from the National Director, Liam Woods, and also from Margaret Brennan, the Assistant National Director of Quality and Patient Safety, together with Dr. Mary Brown and the Acute Care Collaborative, who, as I said earlier, originated the tool in the first place. Also to acknowledge the support and help from CERTA and the developers who have been very willing to, with us, working very well with us to develop the tool and to enhance it further. And also in relation to a dashboard, we've also got OOCIO working with us to develop a dashboard at the moment, and that's currently under construction. And hopefully we'll have something on that in the new year. So the project objectives then, well, they're threefold: to identify the key technical enhancements which we could be made to the existing tool, to design and test and implement those modifications which we did via CERTA, and to support and facilitate the hospital groups in optimizing added value from the implementation of these enhancements. And that's an ongoing process whereby, for example, we just concluded some 15 sessions of training across the country, and I'm available to provide assistance in relation to supporting people on the tool going forward. Anticipated benefits from the project, as I mentioned, to derive added value from the tool going forward, and to consequently increase the usage levels of the tool. We also aimed to get greater access to timely information at all levels, to useful information from the tool, generated from a better suite of reports, and also from the dashboard, for example, and also from mobile access to the tool, which is now available. So just to finalize in terms of the project development on the next slide, the project funding was approved in October 17. We had a number of steering group meetings. We identified the enhancements, as I mentioned earlier, from the survey output particularly. We met with CERTA senior management, and they were only too happy to facilitate us, and we were very thankful for that in terms of undertaking the trial run for the tool. As I mentioned earlier, we're developing a dashboard, and that's ongoing at the moment. So in October, we launched the enhanced tool and supplemented with 15 training sessions, as I said, have just concluded. So moving forward again now, just to give you I mentioned about the survey. The survey we undertook in about a year ago identified some interesting statistics. Basically, in short, it highlights the fact that people found the digital tool, relatively intuitive and relatively easy to use. However, the levels of usage were quite low. So the survey did identify for us where we could focus our attention in terms of improving it. So on the next slide, I've summarized the 4 categories of improvements that could be made to the tool, which we use again as our parameters or remit for the project. And they focus on improved data analysis, improved storage and access within the tool, improved information sharing and a range of reports, and an improved interface and functionality. So as you can see there on the screen, that there are subheadings there which identify the kind of changes that we've managed to make to the tool. So at this point, I will now summarize what the key enhancements to the QA9 tool are, And over the next number of slides, then I'll just give you a quick, I suppose, screenshot of each of those enhancements before finally then going to these enhancements, the more key functionalities in more detail, and showing you how they can be applied within the tool. So what are the key enhancements to the QA9 tool? We have a new metric which measures the percentage of essential elements which have been assessed by reference to the number of essential elements that from which a self-assessment, from which a quality level has been assigned following the submission of and consideration of the evidence of compliance and the identification of improvement actions. So once those quality levels have been assigned to each of the 53 elements, we gradually rise to a position where you've got a 100% of score in terms of meeting that metric. In furtherance, if you like, of continuous assessment, quality assessment, we have now changed the way the data is recorded. It's now continuous self-assessment approach, so that the historical data is now available when you log on to the QA9 tool. It's now pre-populated on the tool for 2013 and 2017 evidence of compliance, for example. Also, incomplete quality improvement plans, which were unfinished from the previous periods, also roll forward into the tool. So there'll be no need now to go to look at previous versions of the tool. It will always be on this current version of the QA9 tool. Local files can be uploaded to the tool to support evidence of compliance. Automatic system reminders can be issued in relation to QIP. There's a consolidated report available at hospital group, and national level now, which reflects quality level evidence and improvement action data. Again, this is a new development which wasn't available previously. A resources tab is also available on the tool now, which incorporates several supports, many different supports for users, including user guide and so on. Reports can be exported to Excel, which is another request from the survey. And you can now switch elements more easily within the tool, which I think users are finding quite helpful. And there's also additional guidance for users on determining the appropriate evidence of compliance. And there's now built into the system a context-sensitive assistance within the tool now as well for each of the 53 essential elements. We also have the more compatibility with mobile technology. For example, the tool is now available on smartphones and tablets, which means the tool is obviously a bit more portable than it was. And we also have, as I said, in the process of developing a dashboard. It is at an advanced stage, but it will require more refinement, and hopefully in the new year, early in the new year, we'll conclude that process. So just moving ahead quickly there now, Roisin, to the next series of slides. These will just illustrate what I've just mentioned there, and I won't take too much time over them. But just to mention again that this is the metric to measure the percentage of essential elements that have been assessed, and it scores per each team on the left-hand side of your screen per team, and also at the top it aggregates to a consolidated figure per hospital. So that measures us on the left-hand side out of 9, for example, for person-centered care and support, and then out of 53 at the top of the screen. So you've got a rolling figure that will reflect the percentage of completion, if you like, of each of the essential elements in terms of whether a quality level has been assigned to them or not. Excuse me, I have a bad cold today. Moving on to the next slide. Again, this is just a very early iteration of the dashboard. This is just to reflect the fact that the dashboard is under construction, and we are working at ways to find the most suitable way to depict the data that is flowing from the QA9 tool. On the next slide, and the one following as well, will illustrate how the historical data is coming forward now onto the tool from 2013 and 2017. So as you can see on that slide, this is the evidence of compliance that is rolling forward in this example from, I think, 2017 or 2013. I can't read the print from here. And so it will always be positioned under, like, as you see it, and hospitals will then be asked to look at that data and consider, is that data current? Is it still valid? And if not, then they'll be asked to reassign it to the inactive evidence tab that you can see further to the right on your screen. I'll show you how that's done shortly. Also, moving to the next screen, I mentioned earlier that historical improvement actions flow as well, and that's fine. We move on to the slide that Roisin is now on, and this slide is about uploading files to, in support of your evidence of compliance. So, for example, if you've got documentation, any relevant file is sitting on your desktop, for example, or on your computer, you can now upload that information by clicking on the Browse button on the dialog box for evidence when you're entering your evidence. So you can enter up to about 5 documents at that point onto the QA tool, and that will then help to enhance your evidence of compliance that you've entered. On the next slide, this is where you can actually elect, if you like, to enter an email address. And if you enter an email address in this box, you're arranging for an email to be sent to the relevant contact person for a QIP. And that will issue then 30 days in advance of the due date of the QIP. This is something that's not mandatory by any means. It's an optional feature within the tool. I hope it's something that people will appreciate and utilize. Moving on to the next screen, this is a new feature within the tool as well as the resources tab within the screen, and this is if you like a live organic element within the tool. So far as I'm uploading documents to this tab on a continual basis, and it currently consists of a range of supports, including the user guide, for example. There are videos up there, PowerPoint videos demonstrating how to do certain actions within the tool, FAQs, etc. On the next slide, there's an illustration of how you can switch elements within the tool now. So, for example, if you're in Theme 1, and as we know, there are 9 essential elements within Theme 1. Now, rather than going back to the home button and going back and forward all the time, you can quite easily move within Theme 1 from essential element 1.1 to 1.8, for example, just by clicking a button. Again, moving forward to the next slide, we're showing the guidance on evidence of compliance at screen. Here I'm highlighting 2 boxes. You'll see show key criteria, and then where you'll see the word here is highlighted. Under show key criteria, the project group identified 6 key criteria that should be considered in relation to any of the 53 essential elements. When you're self-assessing against any topic within against standards, there's 6 key criteria that ought to be considered, and these are outlined when you click on Show Key Criteria on the Q&A tool. Similarly, when you click on here, that takes you to context-sensitive help within the tool, and that's derived from the guidance document provided by HICWA. On the slide now, that's showing, this is a slide that highlights the consolidated reports that are available within the tool, and as I mentioned earlier, this is like consolidation of the data in relation to quality levels, the evidence that's been entered, and also the quality levels in relation to each of the hospitals. It's available at hospital level, it's available at hospital group level, and it's also available at a national level, depending on your authorization within the system. And then on the next slide, this depicts then the fact that you can export your data quite easily to Excel. So once you've decided you're on a particular report that you want to generate, then you'll be offered the option to export the data to Excel. So just on the next slide now, this is a slide which summarizes the next set of slides that I will actually act to conclude the webinar, because there are 7 actions which I want to demonstrate for you now through screenshots, which will actually take us step by step through each of these processes. So, for example, logging into the Q&A tool is obviously something people have become familiar with. So moving through the slides, these slides will explain how you actually go ahead and log on. So you go to the home page of the HSCnet to link directly to the tool. In the event that you don't have access to the HSCnet, in, for example, the voluntary hospitals, a web link can be made available, and those hospitals can click on that link and make access directly, provided they have access to the Health IRL network. So once you're on the HSCnet, you click on the applications download. If you just hit the enter button, Roisin, it may generate help there. So then that will then take you from the applications menu across, and you go into the Acute 2018 tool. You click on that, and once you click on that, you come to the server login screen. At that point, you enter your username and password, and as you will recall, when you apply for access to the QA9 tool, you'll be issued with a username and password. Your password will always need to be entered in lowercase only. So once you enter your username and password, you'll then be presented with what's on the right-hand forward there. You're then presented with the data protection declaration screen. So if you click on accept when you're in the tool, it will then take you directly into the home screen for the tool. So that's how you log on, and it's quite straightforward. Now, the next slide I want to show you relate to how you generate reports on the QA9 tool. So just going to the next, yeah, absolutely, thank you, Roisin. So at the top of the screen, you'll notice there are several options, including home, reports, and resources. So when you want to generate reports, you would click on reports to access the reports menu. Just hit enter there, Roisin. It'll just highlight the fact that that's coming up there. Then you will now see a drop-down list giving details of the types of reports that are available. In order to generate any of these reports, if you click on the report type, again, Roisin, just hit on enter. This example will focus on generating the evidence report. You'll now be presented with the evidence report screen. This screen includes filters to allow you to select which of the themes you wish to report on, and also to select the name of the responsible person. Once you've made your selection, then you click on the View Evidence Report. Again, Roisin, if you just hit on enter, yeah, you'll see how it operates there. And your report will generate the screen, and you can then print the report, or you can export it to Excel. Finally, you can print the reports from the report menu, or you can elect to print evidence or print improvement action. That's an alternative way of accessing printed data from within the tool. There's two methods. There's the reports menu and also what's available under number 5 here on your screen. Thanks, Roisin. The third topic I want to just demonstrate is how you export to Excel on the tool. So clicking on the Reports tab to generate a report. In this tutorial, we'll select a QIP report. And then once that's done, you click on View QIP Report. Click on Enter there, Roisin, and that highlights that. And then notice that a new tab named Export Current Report Excel now appears on the screen, as opposed to distinct from the screenshot in number 2. Number 3 now also includes this Export to Excel option. So then the following Excel dialog box will then appear, and this notice will appear due to different versions of Excel. Simply select yes, and then the report will generate to the screen for you. You can save the Excel report to your desktop if you wish. Please note that Chrome and Internet Explorer will handle this process differently. If you're using Chrome, then you will see the following dialog box. Save the report here as an Excel file simply by selecting the file type from the drop-down list. And if you move to the next slide, Roisin, if you're using Internet Explorer, there's no Excel file type to select from, unfortunately. Instead, you must enter an Excel file extension, the .xls extension, when naming the report under File name, and then click on Save. And that then will save your Excel file to your desktop file. Number 4 then, I want to show you how you go about uploading files to the QA9 tool. Click on the relevant essential element. In this tutorial, or in this example, we'll select essential element 5.1. So you click on Create Evidence to open the Create Evidence dialog box. Just hit Enter there, please, and then click on one of the Browse buttons to access your desktop files. Then you would locate and click on your selected file from your desktop folder, and then you can see your file name then appearing in the appropriate Browse box. There are some notes there at the end of the screen. You can read them for yourself. I can't quite print it myself here at the moment, but just to remember in particular about version control of any document that you upload to the Q8I tool, that you find a method to ensure that version control is in place. If you want to move ahead, so Roisin, please, to number 5, about how you generate an email reminder for QIPs. Excuse me. It is now possible to generate an automated email reminder in relation to QIPs, and this is an optional feature again within the tool. Once the email has been set up in the tool, it will generate an email to the recipient 30 days in advance of the due date. You can decide who should receive the automated email. For instance, it could be the person responsible, or it could be their PA, or it could be a member of the QPS team, for example. The selected recipient will receive an email which identifies the QIP and states the due date, and will also contain a hyperlink back to the specific essential element for the convenience of the recipient. To enable this, the recipient would require access to the QAI tool in the first instance. If you want to move ahead there, so Roisin, please. So clicking on the relevant essential element is up to 1.2, and just hitting Enter, and we'll move on. Yeah, just to highlight that again, and then clicking on the Create Improvement Action to open the Create Improvement Action dialog box, and that then gives you the opportunity then to enter the email address at that point and save your changes. Following that then, in due course, an automated no-reply email will issue to the recipient 30 days in advance of the due date of the email, of the QIP. And below there is a sample of the automated email message that they will receive. And as you can see in the middle of that, there is a link to the essential element. So the recipient would get this email in their inbox, and then click on that essential element, and we'll take them directly to QA tool to that specific essential element. Having clicked on the essential element hyperlink, this is how it works. They back into they log on to the QA tool through their login details, and then the recipient will require access to the tool, as I mentioned. And if they have access, they'll be taken directly to the specific improvement action that's highlighted on the screen there, just as Roisin is highlighting for us now. So that concludes that topic. There's just 2 more items left to go. Making historical data inactive on the tool. So as I mentioned earlier, all historical data now is coming forward onto the tool automatically. So if you want to just click on it, yeah, thank you, Roisin. Historical evidence of compliance and improvement actions are automatically available when you log on. So if you hit Enter there, Roisin, please, it will highlight for us that the, yeah, it should work. There you go. That's highlighting the data that's come forward from previous entries on the tool historically. So if historical evidence or improvement actions are no longer considered, just moving to the next screen. If they're no longer considered valid or relevant, they should be moved to the inactive evidence or inactive improvement actions tab as appropriate. Do so, please double-click anywhere on the row containing the evidence or improvement action that you wish to make inactive. In this example, we're focusing on evidence of compliance for illustration. So you click on that row, and then later then you'll be given an opportunity then to move it via this process, whereby you click on Mark as inactive in the middle of the screen. If you click on Enter there for Roisin, please, it will highlight the box in the middle. And then you, having done that, you'll see the outcome of that, whereby the box is ticked on the right-hand page, right-hand side. Just click Enter again, please. There you go. So that's highlighting how, once you've clicked on Mark it as inactive, it becomes inactive once you click on Save Changes. And by hitting Enter, now we've moved our data into the inactive evidence tab, as you can see there. We're no longer in the evidence tab, we're in the inactive evidence tab. Now, when you wish to report on current assessment, the data that's now in the enacted assessment will not form part of your report. That report will only reflect current data. However, if you wish, you can make that data active again, and simply by going into the inactive evidence tab, you're unticking your entry, and by hitting enter again, Oisin will highlight that box for us, and you untick that and save your changes, and once you've done that, the data has returned again to the evidence tab. So that's a useful feature that people were looking for from the enhanced tool. So finally, applying a quality level within the QA9 tool. So having collated and recorded your evidence compliance and your improvement actions for an essential element, you're then positioned to apply a quality level. So you click on the quality level tab, which, there you go, highlighted by Roisin. Thank you for that. And then we go on to the next screen. And within that screen, you're seeing emerging improvement, continuous improvement, sustained improvement, and excellence. So there's your quality continuum. And once you've decided where along that continuum essential element should be placed on, then you click that button, continuous improvement in this case, and save your changes by clicking on Save Element. And then when you do that, you've then selected your quality level for that essential element. So if you wish to undo that for any reason, then you would click on the untick quality level on the previous screen. Thank you, Roisin. Now, finally, I was going to highlight again, before I conclude, what the resources and supports that are available under the Resources tab on the QA9 tool. Please note the Resources tab includes QA9 tool user guide, for example, FAQs. There are several PowerPoint demonstrations on key functionalities. There's a tips and hints sheet, glossary of terms, and so on. That's available once you log on to the QA9 tool under the Resources tab. So on the next screen, I just want to thank you for listening to this webinar. Please feel free to email me at declan.o'keefe@hse.ie with any questions you have or any queries you have on the QA9 tool. And I'd like to thank Roisin as well for facilitating this event.
Thanks a million, Declan. That was really informative, and certainly I found it very useful in terms of the walkthrough of the tool and how actually it looks so easy to use, which is fantastic. So looking forward to the further enhancements that you're making. Just wondering, Declan, one thing that struck me is that the chat box is actually very quiet, so if anyone has any queries or questions, please do put them in there for Declan, and obviously you do have his email address there to put them in. This webinar will be recorded and up on the QA Talk Time webpage as well to access after. But just wondering, can hospitals look at other hospitals' information on this? Is there a comparative thing, or is there any way of looking at how other hospitals are doing?
Well, the way the tool is structured, from a governance perspective as well, Roisin, if you're working in one hospital, you cannot see the data for another hospital. That's the starting point. If you're within, as each hospital is within a hospital group management and people working at hospital group level with authorized access can view the hospital data for their hospital in their hospital group. They can't change that data. The data belongs to the hospital itself. So those people can actually have edit access at hospital level to change the data. People at hospital group level can view the data. Similarly, at national level, people working at national level and people with access at national level can see the data for each of the hospital groups and the constituent hospitals throughout the country. So there's both a governance and a security issue there in answering your question.
Yeah, great. And there is one question here from the room, actually, and Dr. Stevens, I have Maureen Flynn here with me, and she's just wondering about, you did mention earlier about sale to hospital group and the sharing, I think it was Tess Fogarty you mentioned, and their work in Salta. Was it Tess Fogarty you mentioned?
Tess
in
Fogarty,
Salta? Yeah. So we're just wondering, is there any way of sharing different services, how they've used the system and what they find worked well and didn't work so well? Is there a platform in which people can share experiences?
I suppose in short, at the moment, there isn't a formal process for that, but I know TESS is very open to assisting other hospitals and hospital groups in relation to this, and has, for example, devised a series of templates to assist in gathering self-assessment data, and that assists both the people who are self-assessing and also those who are data inputting at the end of the process, if you like. So, for example, that's an example I know whereby TESS would be only too happy to share that documentation, that support.
Great. And there's a couple of questions here. Judy Colin, hi Judy, down in Waterford, is asking, will her old password work on the new updated tool?
Thanks, Judy. Yeah, that will absolutely be the case. All usernames and passwords that were originally and were submitted or provided to users will always apply. If somebody, for example, can't remember the username or has difficulty entering or accessing the tool for any reason, by all means give me a call or email me on declan.o'keefe@hse.ie. And if Judy's having any difficulty with accessing, just give me a call.
Fantastic. And Siobhan Carrigan is wondering, which is a great question, do you know if these enhancements will be applied to the primary care QA and I tool?
Currently, this is a project for the QA and I tool under the governance of Liam Woods. I know that we are happy to liaise with other arms, if you like, of the health service and other pillars, such as primary care, or another parts of the service who have the QA and I tool already. So yes, we are open to sharing our learning, absolutely.
Yeah, and Declan, I know you're in your current role is a lot to do with training people up, isn't it, in terms of the use of the tool as well. And you mentioned earlier that you would be available to go to sites to assist them. Is that am I right in saying that?
I've just concluded I suppose a nationwide tour, for want of a better phrase, of training over the last month or so.
Yeah.
I think there's about 15 training sessions, and I met about 80 people who we trained on the tool over that time. Currently, there are no specific training plans for more sessions. Maybe we'll just wait and see what the demand level is like. But bear in mind as well, towards the end of my presentation there, I drew attention to the resources tab on the Q&A tool.
Yeah.
And there's quite a lot of resources there now available to online.
And in fairness, the recording of this section actually can be used now as well. It does walk people through the system. And one thing actually I find great there, you know, it really does support data for improvement. You know, the way you were pointing out that you can look up old historical files, and it's, you know, it's showing trends over time, which is great.
And that score, Roisin, you know, we'll have the dashboard coming forward, hopefully in the near term, and that will then, as you mentioned about trends, we'll have trend analysis on that as part of that development.
Yeah, and Maureen has a question here about your own experience of the dashboard. How do you think that has made a difference in comparison to the previous methods that were being used?
In relation to what? Sorry, I didn't quite catch the question.
The dashboard. You were talking about the new enhancements with the dashboard. Maybe Maureen can clarify her question herself.
Hi, Declan. How are you?
Hi, Maureen. How are you?
Thanks a million for the presentation.
You're very welcome.
Just thinking about, you know, the quality and safety committees as they meet around the country, and their role is oversight of quality and safety. So the QA&I tool will be an enormous support for them. And when they come to their meetings, just your experience of using some of the data and the metrics coming from the dashboard, your thoughts about how that might be useful to quality and safety committees?
Well, as part of the project, Maureen, when we were looking at how best to devise an appropriate metric, we looked at various methods, and we basically decided, okay, what is it that the tool is providing information on. And ultimately, it's providing information on the quality level that is assigned to each of the essential elements. And that then was, the metric we settled on as a way of reflecting a level of compliance within against the standards as depicted within the tool. And I suppose we would hope then that quality and safety committees and anyone self-assessing against the standards would utilize the tool in the first place, not just regard it as a repository, but use it as a way of monitoring and reporting on the level of self-assessment, as opposed to the previous under the previous tool, for example, where that facility wasn't quite so available. So we're hoping that the tool now, I think that's the feedback we're getting from people who on training, for example, is that the tool is more dynamic and it is providing more value added to self-assessors and to hospitals generally. So the hospital management, for example, and hospital group management and would all be able to avail of more relevant information and a more timely information and more accessible information than previously. Again, it can be through the dashboards when that comes about, but already through the consolidated reports that are available on the tool. We don't need to go beyond the tool to generate a consolidated report on the level of activity and level of quality or level of compliance that exists for each of the hospitals against the standards as measured on the QA&I tool. So it's a terrific resource for hospitals to utilize. Again, going back to the care collaborative with devices in the first place, and did tremendous work in devising it, we responded to a felt need, if you like, within the system to provide these enhancements. And hopefully, again, as we are responding to a felt need, we are providing users with what they asked for. And hopefully people now will take it forward and utilize this.
Thanks, Declan, and congratulations to you and all the team working on it, because I think, you know, the dashboard and consolidated reports give you very clear pictures on one, you know, page where an organization sits, and that's, you know, hugely valuable intelligence.
Excellent, very good. Yeah, but that's the kind of feedback we're getting as well, Maureen.
Yeah, and as alluded to in your presentation, Declan, obviously all the enhancements have been dictated by the feedback that you got along the way from users in the past and in conjunction with staff, which is great. Well, to be honest, Declan, I think actually we've kind of nearly come to the end of the webinar. Tess has just said that she'd be very open to sharing her experiences, and some way of sharing different hospitals' experiences would be a good idea. So maybe that's something that you could take into consideration, Declan, through Acute. Ronnie McDermott is asking, are there further reminders for the actions assigned to the relevant person until action is complete, or is there just one reminder through the system?
There is one reminder, but it will go out 30 days before the due date for QIP, but that due date can be, you know, if the due date needs to be pushed out further, say for example for another quarter maybe, well, another email will go out at that point. It will be triggered by the date on the system. If you like, it's an automatic system-generated email that will go out as triggered by the due date. So if the due date is moved forward, another email will go out at that point.
Great, okay. Fantastic, Declan. We seem to have, I'm just going back. Oh yeah, I didn't have my slide on this one, but the next webinar is coming up in early January, and it's by UCD Health Systems on collective leadership. It's the second Tuesday in January at 1 p.m. So we'll be really looking forward to everyone joining in on all of that. And we'll have fortnightly webinars planned in the new year again from QI Talk Time. And just again to say thank you very much, Declan, and congratulations on all the work, and thanks for linking in with us today for the webinar. It was really informative and a lot of good feedback there online from people. And thanks for people's patience at the start with a minor technical hitch. And thank you, Declan, again for that.
Thanks for helping me through it, coaching. You're very kind.
Okay, no problem. Thank you very much. Okay,
everybody.
Happy Christmas. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.